Hey everybody, this is Freddy with Freddy Can Fly. Welcome back. We are now going to start Lesson 5, and I thought this would be a good time to start tackling some inverted flying. We went through the basics of right side up and kind of taught you how to control the heli and do some cool maneuvers. So, I mean, basically that's all there is. Once you know all the stuff between the videos 1 and 3, you should be well off now to where you can do just about anything right side up, minus all the really good mix and matching, different combinations of maneuvers. But you should have a basic understanding of what it is, what it really means to fly right side up. You should be comfortable. So now I think it would be a good time to start learning some 3D flying. Now, before we even get into this at all, I will tell you this. Those of you out there looking to go inverted for the first time, do not attempt it this high above the ground. Get yourself up there a little bit. That way you have a nice cushion, because obviously if we get scared, we have a lot more room to drop to hopefully save the helicopter before we throw it into the ground. Okay, so it's always good to take it up, obviously within your comfort range. Stay comfortable at all times. That's what's important here. So before we start tackling inverted, we're going to talk about obviously transitioning into 3D flying. Now obviously we need to be in a fixed RPM mode, as always, 3D mode. I do recommend a higher head speed if you're a sport flyer. Increase your throttle curves up a little bit to keep more of a constant head speed, because you will need it. Now, before we get into actual direction and orientation based hovers in 3D, we need to talk about getting into an inverted position. I always recommend, guys, if we were flying right now at a field, if you're going to try 3D for the first time, either do, as I said in my earlier videos, I always fly left to right. And I started learning front flips first, because obviously every time we front flip, we're going away from us. We don't got to worry about the heli coming back and chopping our heads off. So always think of it as from a safety standpoint as well. You always want to flip and roll the heli away from you until you get more skilled. So you can either go left to right with front flips first, or we can go away from us with front flips like this. That's always a lot safer. One thing I don't ever like to see, it always gets me nervous when we're out at the field flying, is people will be hovering right here and they want to come and backflip like this. I don't recommend that. You have the freedom to do what you choose in this hobby, but just know it can get dangerous. So with that being said, we'll be doing a little bit of left to right here, because that's what I'm comfortable with. So we're going to work on front flips first, just to get into the inverted position for orientation based hovering. And the way I recommend doing this right now is just nice and slow rollovers. Now obviously we have a positive pitch range and we have a negative pitch range, and at half stick is where 0 degrees of pitch is. And also we don't have any load on our blades. What load refers to is the amount of force being put onto the blades when we're applying pitch. So at 0 degrees of pitch is where you have 0 load, and you are free to let the head kind of build back up some speed. And what I mean by that is, if I stall the heli right now at 0 pitch, you'll notice I just fall. Now I can save it with some negative, and we'll transition nice and smooth. Whereas if I hold on to the positive, you'll notice I start to drop really quick. And we'll tackle some of that a little bit later on in the more advanced 3D stuff, but just something to be aware of. You need to be used to returning back to center stick at all times while flying 3D, because it's kind of the key. It's one of the key factors in being able to flip and roll the heli properly, is remaining at 0 pitch until you're ready to give either a positive or negative adjustment. So we're in our hover, we're comfortable right side up, we want to get inverted for the first time. So what I recommend doing is a quick flip in and a quick flip out. We'll slowly start working on the inverted hovers as we get more comfortable, but the biggest hurdle we need to go over is actually experiencing that first rollover. Once you get that first one down, it seems to get a little easier and a little less nerve-wracking, but it's just crossing that bridge for the first time, you guys. So what I would recommend doing is we're going to get it up here a little. Now the key to this is you want to apply pitch, and you also want to apply forward elevator at the same time until we hit our stalling position, which is 0 degrees of pitch. And what I mean by that is we want to flip it until we hit right here, and we want to return. You'll notice on my controller onto the left, both of my sticks return to their center positions, and I basically let go entirely. So observe the sticks here, you'll notice we let go entirely, okay? And at that stalling position is where we now are going to transition into inverted. So what we're going to do is we're going to stall out the heli, controls back to center, and then roll it under and give just a little bit of negative to stop us. Not a heavy amount, guys. What we're trying to avoid here is this. We don't want to flip it under and then go and start punching out the heli, because we're going to panic and freak out. As we've talked about, it takes very little amount of collective pitch to propel these helicopters. So we're going to take it up, we're going to bring controls to their neutral position, we're going to roll it under and give a little bit of negative. And guys, do realize that you can do those controls in steps. So if we were to transition into inverted right now in step, we're going to go collective, elevator, elevator, collective. See how I did that? Collective, elevator, elevator, collective. And you'll notice, you know, I'm really not dropping or gaining in altitude, and to show you that, I'll actually bring it in and do some low down ones. Same thing, we're going to go collective, elevator, elevator, collective. Same thing, collective, elevator, elevator, collective. And you'll notice every time I change, when I let off collective, it goes right back to center stick. So collective, center, elevator, elevator, collective. So returning back to that center position on the collective, or 0 degrees of pitch, allows the heli to flip and roll in a nice tight pattern without any sort of pitch propelling you. Now if I don't go to center, here's what happens. If I hold on to positive afterwards, I'm going to go this way. Now the same thing can be said. If I transition and I give it negative, we're now going this way. So you can see how that could get really tricky. So before you start practicing this inverted transition, make sure you're really fluid at getting into that 0 degrees of pitch or your neutral position without looking down at your sticks. So we'll practice that a couple more times here, guys. We're going to go collective, elevator, elevator, into collective. Collective, elevator, elevator, into collective. Now it looks a little sketchy, and try not to concentrate so much on it. Just get that nice easy rollover, just boom, right there. So now we're inverted. Now the reason why we skipped inverted hovers first is because if we're all the way up here, say we do a funny kind of a roll like that, well, we can save it with negative and just roll right back out, and then now we're fluid in right side up flying, so we were able to save it. I recommend getting used to just what it feels like to roll over inverted first. Then we'll start working on our inverted orientation hovers on the next video series, okay? So once we're comfortable and fluid in front flips, you know, like I said, practice really high up ones, practice slow ones, fast ones. You know, there's a fast one if we want to do a nice good slow one. And obviously messing around with pitch is gonna determine whether it's a big or a slow loop. Also the speed in which you apply elevator. Also we could go over some side rolls here. The same thing's gonna apply. Hit that stalling point, we're gonna stall, roll it into some collective. Same thing, we're gonna go collective, stall, now we're gonna transition back into positive pitch. And you'll see how that allows a really smooth running flip. The reason why we do that stall in the center is because on a real heli, when we're flying, right now we're loading up the head. Now we stall, it unloads, gets back up to RPMs, and then we apply more load by negative. Unload, load, unload, load. And this actually will dramatically increase the efficiency of your 3D performance on a heli. It'll stop things like bogging down the blades or blade stalls. And you'll notice if I do a little bit of freestyle here, I always stall at that position. Stall, save it, stall, save it, stall, save it, stall, save it. So it's hard to get used to doing that stall, but that little stalling point right there is very important. And we'll go over stuff like the throttle pumps and collective stops, like that right there, where you get it really hard, bam. And that's all due because of the stall. You allow the head to unload. That way you have lots of power to play with. And we'll get into that in a little bit more of the advanced stuff. So this was going to be our first video of transitioning into 3D, guys. Practice some of this stuff, get really good at it, and we'll move on to inverted based hovering on our next video.